Reporting for the Intermountain Christian News, I'm Dr. Anthony Harper. We are blessed to be talking with Bat-Zion in Israel on this special day, International Holocaust Remembrance Day, January 27. Thank you for joining me, Bat-Zion. And why is International Holocaust Remembrance Day so important to you?
As I mentioned to you, both my parents are survivors of what I prefer to refer to in Hebrew as Shoah rather than Holocaust, because Holocaust is a Greek word and it means sacrifice by fire. And I think Jewish experiences, and this unfortunate experience is a unique Jewish experience. I think Jewish experiences should be referred to in Hebrew Jewish terms. And in Hebrew, we call it Shoah, which means destruction, annihilation. And that's exactly what describes this horrific experience. As I said, this horrific chapter in our Jewish history, the annihilation of whole Jewish communities in Eastern Europe, which is where both my parents come from. They're originally from Lithuania and White Russia. I was fortunate enough to be born a Jew in Eretz Israel, in the land of Israel, and it is really a blessing to know that we have a home. Because for me, I'll give you an example. I used to talk a lot. My mother and father, may they rest in peace, always shared with me what happened to them, just so that we learn. You know, we're told in the Torah, you should tell your son, okay? So they kept telling me and sharing with me that experience, just so that we don't forget, because those who forget their past tend to repeat it, okay?
Mm-hmm.
My mother used to tell me, and it still echoes in my head, that when she lived in the non-Jewish town where she was born, she happened to be the daughter of the wealthiest family, and her father was the most educated person there. And she said that the Gentiles used to say to them, Jews, the big houses may be yours, but the streets are ours. And I'm so proud and happy to sit here and tell the world that in Israel, not only the homes and the houses are ours, but the streets likewise are ours. And we're going to watch over them. We're going to make sure they stay ours. And I shared with you the experience of last night as an example of what we do to make sure this land remains our homeland.
How are your parents saved from this terrible time?
I always say they're a miracle. They're definitely a miracle. And I always say, by default, I'm a miracle as well. And, you know, people always ask me, why are you so energetic? Why? I'm 69 years old, and I try to get the most out of my life. I continue my education. I'm involved in a lot of projects, and people say to me, why are you so active? Why are you always on the move? And I said, because my parents were a miracle. They survived miraculously. And by default, I'm a miracle, and a miracle shouldn't be wasted. So they survived probably, well, my father, they were never in a concentration camp. I don't know if it's the fact that they were in a part that fell into the Russian hands at the onset of the war, because I told you that part was divided between Russia, or as you know, was divided between Russia and Germany, and they fell into the hands of the Russians. Not that it was a great pleasure, but it was certainly much less horrific than the fate of the Jews that fell into the hands of the Nazis right away. So they were mainly put in ghettos and in labor camps. My father at some stage joined the partisans, and I'm very proud. I always tell people that his blood runs in my veins because I'm a fighter. I'm not a giver-upper, and I continue to fight. So I guess they also had strong genes. My father was a very strong person, and actually he and my mother met in a labor camp. It was a labor camp in a small town. They came from totally different background, and I always joke Hitler was their matchmaker. They would have never met otherwise, okay? And my mother, he was her 20 years her senior, and she had typhoid fever. And she would have probably died had he not been there next to her and literally nursed her. And because he was such a strong man, and believe it or not, some Nazis were there, were actually good people. What can I say? It may sound an oxymoron, a good Nazi, but were decent human beings. They were there because they were told to be there. And he really liked my father, the commander of that camp. And each person had to submit a certain quota of turf every day. And my mother couldn't go out to work. And people who were not capable of working were sent immediately to the concentration camps. So my father delivered the double quota to cover for my mother's quota. And that's how she survived. She could rest. Of course, there was no medication. So she survived it. And I guess God was watching over them more than anything. I'm very grateful to God for that, very. And I'm not a religious Jew, excuse me, in the traditional sense of the word, but I have a very strong connection with God, extremely strong, more than what I would say some ultra-religious people do.
Definitely a miracle of God.
Absolutely.
I like to think of being more than an overcomer. And it is definitely a miracle about how your parents were saved and how you are here. And so what do you do in Israel right now?
Okay, well, I'm retired. Until 2 years ago, I worked as a teacher, and I lived in America for 17 years, and I lived all over the world basically, but I returned to Israel 10 years ago or 11 years ago, and I have been working as a teacher, which is my main profession. But I also have a few blogs. I have a blog in the Jerusalem Post. I write in English in a blog in Times of Israel, and my own personal blog. And I also published one book, and I'm about to publish my second book. So I basically write. I love to write. I do a lot of writing. I am also a personal trainer, health and fitness. So I enjoy the outdoors. I just love being here. I love breathing the fresh air of Israel. You know, our sages said that the air of Israel makes you wiser. I'd like to believe that. I try to breathe as much of it as possible.
Israel is a special place to be. I know that I've been there many times, and what a blessing beyond words. Wanted to know what if you were able to talk with President Biden right now regarding International Holocaust Remembrance Day, what would you ask him?
To try and learn from history, basically, because as I said, if you don't study the past, and it seems to me that this is one lesson that President Biden has missed in his lifetime. I don't think he has studied history as well as he should have. And people who don't know their past are likely to repeat it. And sometimes it's not a nice past to be repeated. And we're witnessing it as day by day. So may I just explain one thing to a lot of people, if I may please explain about our name. You keep saying Israel, Israel. And a lot of people don't really know what the meaning, how meaningful that name is. And we miss a lot by not understanding. I think Israel is probably the only country in the world who has in its name past, present, and future. Reverend, you know, in the Torah, when Jacob fought with a man, it wasn't an angel. In Hebrew, it says that he fought with a man. And when the man asked him at dawn to let him go, Jacob said to him, I will not let you go until you bless me. And he blessed him and said, no longer shall your name be Jacob, it will be Yisrael. It's not Israel. There is no Z in our name. There is an S, Yisrael. Israel shall be your name because you have fought with God and man, and you shall prevail. Let me explain what I mean by past, present, and future.
Okay.
Jacob means to follow in the footsteps of others. And we know why Jacob was named Jacob, because he was born holding the heel of Esau. Heel in Hebrew is the same root as the word to follow in the footsteps of someone. For 2,000 years, we have been following wherever we lived in the diaspora. They told us to go into ghettos, we went into ghettos. They told us to wear a yellow star, we wore a yellow star. Whatever they told us to do, we did. We were a Jacob, we followed in their footsteps. Now we are Israel, meaning fighting with God and with men. We are fighting with God, not physically. I really feel that whatever is happening now in Israel, and not good things are happening now in Israel, is a message from God. We are fighting morally, are against the moral code of God, the 10 Commandments and all the laws of Torah, the basic interactions between human beings. We don't follow them. I really feel that God is teaching us a lesson. So we're not really fighting literally with God, but we're fighting against his commandments, his directives. Naturally, we also fight against men who come to kill us, our neighbors, or from within and from without. People try and kill us every generation. So this is our present, and the future is, and you shall prevail. So in the name of Israel, the blessing that comes with changing of the name from Jacob, Yaakov, to Yisrael, not Israel, Yisrael, there's past, present, and future. And it's a bright future. You shall prevail. The eternal of Israel shall never lie. The Jewish people is the people of eternity. And if we can bear that message, first of all, to our fellow Jews, I think you Christians understand it better than some of us Jews understand it. And that's very unfortunate that many people here in Israel don't fully understand the significance of this brilliant name that our country has been blessed with.
You have been blessed with a wonderful name. So I would encourage everyone watching to pray for you and for everyone in Israel, to be a blessing to Israel. I think of Genesis 12:3 for blessings for those that bless. This is a special covenant with Abraham and his seed, and Israel is definitely that covenant relationship with God. And it's a very special day to commemorate about all that the Jewish people have been through. And so I appreciate you sharing your story, what you and your family have gone through. Any final comments that you would like to make to our viewers?
Okay, I want to thank everybody for praying for us and for supporting us. It is really very meaningful to me to know. I mean, I'm wondering if my parents had known, it had the same kind of support that the Jewish people nowadays has from you people, whoever supports us, whoever is blessed by God. I think they're up there next to God, smiling and thanking you from the bottom of their hearts.
Well, I give all praise to the God of Israel, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and pray at the White House that there will be a change of heart to bless
Amen.
Israel. And it is amazing to this point, as of at this very moment, the White House has not issued any statement about the International Holocaust Remembrance Day, is not showing any behavior towards blessing Israel fully in opposing anti-Semitism in all of its forms. And hopefully they will change that very soon.
We hope so, and we pray so. So I thank you very much again for all of your support, your love, and it means a lot to all of us here. And I take the liberty of thanking you in the name of many.
Well, thank you. I just wanted to finally ask you about the guardians. I know there's been a lot of unrest in Israel. What are the guardians and regarding livestock and other situations there?
Okay, well, they're called the New Guardians. Before the state of Israel was founded, we had the Guardian. It was a movement and their task was to protect livestock, to protect settlements, to protect lives. And nowadays, it's unfortunate that we have to reestablish, to found again an organization to protect the life of Jews and the life of their livestock. And why was there a need to found it? Because there were many incidents in the past where ranches were invaded by unwanted invaders who took mostly young calves and simply carried them out of the ranch. And it caused a lot of damage, financial damage, and heartache, and a lot of strife to a lot of people. The farmer whose farm we were watching last night, told me that 5 years ago, he had 16 calves stolen from him and a value of 200,000 new Israeli shekels, which is a fortune for any farmer. And for us, it's very important, the connection to the land is what we're commanded by God. This is the land. We have to make sure that ranches, agriculture continues to stay. Trees are being taken out, are being uprooted. And that was the first commandment before we entered Eretz Israel, the land of Israel. God said to Moses, you should plant every fruit tree of every kind. And we're trying to live that commandment. We're trying to fulfill that commandment. And unfortunately, there are forces that are trying to fight us on that because they don't want us to establish a certain presence here, a legitimate presence, may I add. So what we do is people volunteer, and once every month or every few months, we go out at night and we patrol the farms. It's an 8-hour shift. Unfortunately, last night was the coldest night this winter, and it's of course, so I was with 6 layers of clothes and was still freezing because it was raining, hail, and but can I tell you, I just love that experience. I felt as I told you, as I wrote to you, I guess, we feel like we're on a mission from God. We're doing what we were meant, what our destiny was to do. I told you, I'm an American. I could go and live in America, but I came back to Israel because I want to make sure that this land remains our homeland. Because if we lose it this time, we're not going to get it again. It happened twice in the past. We have to make sure it doesn't happen again.
I know, I keep hearing that phrase, never again.
Well, they're always movement, not movement, but slogans. Never again is now, never again. I say never again is always. And when I say never again, people say to me, well, do you forgive those who hurt your people? I'm sorry, nobody gave me a mandate to forgive. But one thing is certain, I have the mandate to never forget. And never again goes along with never forget. I always remind and remember. First remember and then remind. So sums it up. That's part of the equation of never forget.
It goes along with what you mentioned before about those that don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it.
Exactly.
And hopefully people will be learning and to be a blessing to Israel. And finally, you have a website, once again, that you would like people to view.
Well, they're invited. It's www. BAT, all in lowercase, BAT-ZION.name. Bat-Zion is my name, and I told you what it means. It means daughter of Zion. And couldn't be more Hebrew or more Jewish than that. And of course, Zion is Jerusalem. It's the mountain of God, and where the temple was. And again, it's www, lowercase, BAT-ZION Zion.name,
Yes, and there's a dot between www and your bot.
Bat-Zion.
Okay.
Exactly.
Well, thank you for joining me and sharing your story. God bless you all in Israel with protection and all the hope and the encouragement that you need in this very trying time.
Thank you so much. And again, God bless you all for your support and love. And may we all see better times soon.
Yes, very soon.
Okay.
Thank you
so much, Reverend. It was a pleasure, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Shalom.
Shalom to you.
We read news every day, news that's informative but rarely encouraging. The Intermountain Christian newspaper aims to change that. They present the news you need to know, from what's going on in your community to your world, with encouraging words, motivation, and the resources you need to make positive changes in your life. What is your local government doing that you need to know about? What's happening in your community you need to be a part of? Whether it's a story from your neighborhood, a national story, or an encouraging word, you'll find biblical issues of everyday life in the Intermountain Christian newspaper. Intermountain Christian News is produced and supported by the work and donations of individuals and churches. You'll find it at churches, Christian bookstores, by subscription, and online at imcnews.org. To find out more about supporting this local resource, go online at imcnews.org or call Intermountain Christian News in Boise, Idaho at 208-703-8688. The Intermountain Christian News, a voice sharing the truth on matters dear to people's hearts.